All right, welcome to another edition of Two Things Here, the Black Wealth Experience podcast, as well as the Mile High Real Estate Spotlight podcast. And I am so excited. Today is going to be one of those days where you're going to want to get out some notes. You're going to want to take some copious stuff because we have Rob Horton on today. And I don't want to take a whole bunch of time talking about me and the things that I do because there's so much content of just stuff that he has been around to know what's been happening. He's been here in the Denver metro area doing real estate since 1987. He has been on many boards. He's been the president of different organizations, and so there is just so much that we can learn that is so exciting. The number one thing is, how do we get people into homes, right? That's the number one goal, is getting people into homes so they can enjoy home ownership. There is so many people that are out there, and I say this almost at everything, is, if you're spending $2,000 a month or $2,500 a month on rent, you do that for 12 months. Now you spent $24,000 or $3,000, on your rent, and you do that for 10 years. You've now given a landlord $240,000 or $300,000. And so what we want to do is show you that there are possibilities for you where you sit today, whether it's through down payment assistance programs, whether it's through relatives that are helping you out, whether it's through programs that are in our community. There are ways for you to have home ownership. And it's been part of the American dream for a lot of people for many, many, many years. And for some people, it hasn't been a dream at all, because they haven't seen it. And so part of what we're going to do today, and part of what we're going to unpack, is just the fact that you can do it, you deserve it, and you want to let the experts help you. So Rob, thank you for being on today. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come and talk to not just me, but to other folks who will be able to listen to this about the possibilities of what they're going to do. So what I would like for you to do, I'm not going to, I could spend a lot of time just talking about all your accolades, but I would love to do is have you tell us first how to get a hold of you, because I think people will want to do that. And second, history is so important. I want you to kind of talk through where you've come from in this industry. And we as folks of color have come through, I think that's super important. And then maybe where we can go. We'll unpack all of that. But if you can start out with just how to get a hold of you, and then start in on, a little bit about our history, would be amazing.
Brian, I want to make it simple for everyone. The easiest way to get hold of me is text me or call me at 303-669-5397. Make it as simple as possible.
All right. Thank you. And I know you said people calling you, that's one choice, call or text. So make sure you do that. I mean, don't have this feeling like, well, I'm bothering him or I'm thinking about it. He will answer you very quickly. And if he's doing something, he will get to you as soon as he possibly can. But that is the easy, most effective way. And if you want to email him, text him first, and he'll send you his email. So, all right, Rob, tell us about how you got involved in this. What inspired you to? I mean, I even want to go back as far as, childhood and, where you grew up, and what inspired you to do this before you jump right into the real estate side of it.
Well, what inspired me to get into real estate, believe it or not, was I was with the airlines, and Continental and DIA was being built, and I was with Continental, and my responsibility, the job that I had, was no longer going to be in Denver, and I was going to either relocate to Houston or Cleveland, and neither one of those cities were attractive choices for me. And I was driving out 6th Avenue one Sunday morning, going skiing, and a gentleman named had a little radio show that talked about real estate, and he was talking about how many people that were getting out of real estate. And my grandfather always said, "Son, you always get on the roller coaster at the bottom." Get in and grow with that, because I was looking around to do something not to leave the Denver metro area.
Oh, that makes sense. Did you grow up here? Did you grow up here in Denver, or did you grow up somewhere else?
I'm originally from South Louisiana.
Okay.
Small town, St. Martinsville. Okay. It's in Bayou Tech country. So okay. I could talk all day about that, but we won't go there.
Okay. So the South, and you came to Denver, you worked for Continental Airlines, and then you fell in love with it, and you said, "I don't want to go." And
Well,
that,
actually, I came from Vegas here. I was with Hughes Air West and was transferred in here with the airlines and found Denver to be a magnificent city. At the time I came, Denver had the highest middle class for blacks in America
okay.
in 1980. We had more middle class African Americans in Denver than any other city in America. And I found that to be very fascinating.
I did not know that. I was in high school in 1980. My sophomore year in high school, I was going to Cherry Creek High School. My dad was part of an affirmative action program at, I think it was Mountain Bell before it had turned to US West. And we moved out to the suburbs in 1970. And he was realizing this American dream of home ownership. And, I think he bought our first house for $15,000 out there. And, as I learned more about who I was, I struggled a little bit, like, Dad, how come you didn't leave us in the community where, it was, black folks, were more, in the Denver area? Why am I way out here in these suburbs and I'm going to school? I think there was 38 of us at Cherry Creek High School out of 3,000 in 1980. And so it was, and so you say that, I'm going, okay, I could see that now. But as a high school student, I had no clue that Denver, because I grew up here, so I didn't have anything to compare it with until I was able to travel to other cities. So I exciting that you came here and were able to get going. So I want to hear more about that as you continue to talk.
Well, the thing is, I was with Hughes Air West in Vegas and got transferred into Denver and found it to be a very refreshing city. You touched on, Brian, that a lot of times we don't feel that we belong in certain settings, in certain communities or certain places. Well, we talk about generational wealth. We don't know what it takes to start or perpetuate generational wealth. So therefore, we don't ever start on it. And like you said, home ownership is the first part of it. And right now, I've been in real estate long enough that I'm at the point now, believe it or not, the people that I want to focus on the most, because I have time. I am not rushing to pay every bill anymore. My kid's grown, so I don't have that responsibility. I have time. I'm looking for those people who are employed, who are paying rent, whose credit may not be the best. And why do I want that person? Because that's the person that we need to lift into home ownership if we're ever going to start generational wealth, and they don't know where to start. And I have time now. I will take them under my wing, working with you and others in our community to get their credit into a position that they're able to buy. That's my goal right now, where I'm at in real estate. I have several people right now that I'm working with. That one young man, when I first started talking to him about it, his credit score, believe it or not, was 410.
Whoa, okay.
He just this past week called me because I'm advising him. That's what I do. I'm a real estate advisor. I don't sell homes. You see, people buy homes because they buy payment. They pay rent, they buy payment.
Okay.
So I cannot take you, if you do not qualify, and buy you a multi-million-dollar home. I cannot sell you a one-bedroom condo if you have a family of four, because it won't work. All that is dictated by your needs. My job is to educate people to make the very best decision with their money. That's the only way that we're going to grow generational wealth and perpetuate the growth into the middle class in America, as I see it. So at this point in time, that is what my dedication is to work with those people who may not have perfect credit and don't know where to start. I have the time to guide them.
That is so amazing, and I hope the folks that are listening to this, the first time people who believe that they can't do this are hearing. He's not saying I'm going to buy you a house that's $1 million house. He's not saying that I'm going to get you into a house next week. He says I'm going to get you into a house, and it's going to be a process, and I'm going to coach you, and I'm going to mentor you, and I'm going to walk you through the process. And then hopefully by going through that process, because process can be so big, that now you will be able to share that with your kids and your kids' kids. And that can start perpetuating this thing that is generational wealth, that is generational understanding, which is generational knowledge. It's these things that we have to sometimes go slower at to get people to where they need to be. Because we have this, where folks just kind of move around and they go from place to place and they believe they can't do it. And then they start telling other people they can't do it. And pretty soon you have a community. And Rob, I've had so many of these conversations where, like, I'm working like you were doing with a young lady right now. We're moving her into her first house. She grew up in projects here in the Denver metro area, has never saw anybody. And for the last year, she's been qualified to own a home. But everybody in her family, everybody in her sphere of influence has told her that she's impossible. She's a single mom now. So she can't have a house. She needs to just keep renting. It's better for her. And we got to change that narrative, right?
Well, that's why I'm working with people who, because that is the narrative. The fear is what paralyzes us. The fear of the unknown. And when you're in an environment where everyone around you are like you, that are renting, are worried about next paycheck, the mindset is, I just got to survive. And in my experience, we have to change that mindset and move it from survival to a level of stability. And it's that stability that they can start to think towards ownership. Because when you're in survival mode, all you worried about is, do I have enough gas to get to work tomorrow so that I can get paid on Friday?
Amen. And you hear and credit is one of those things that we're not taught about. And the reason that young man's credit was in the 400s, we probably didn't even understand, or how important it is and how it allows us to access greater, we just have a society that's set up based on credit. And so how we move through this thing is dependent on this thing that we don't teach people about, right? I never had a class in school about credit or what it does or the effectivenesses of it. It's been, it was not till later in life, till I made those mistakes, that then I learned about some of those things in credit, right?
I agree with you. He had no clue what credit was, because when you're at survival, you're trying to get money any way you possibly can to just eat and find a comfortable place to sleep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're so true. You're so right. Well, Rob, I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of greatness. And I think about, the whole civil rights movement and what was available for, Blacks and people of color back in the 50s and 60s. And then we have all these policies and things now that are a result of some of the work that folks did. But that wasn't just in, our ability to move through society. Now, when we start talking about home ownership, when we start talking about generational wealth, it's because of people like you who have done things, even in the Colorado, Denver metro area, that have allowed us to have what I would consider probably the greatest opportunity we've ever had. When I look at the down payment assistance programs, and I look at the ability for people to get into homes, and I look at, just so many different programs that are geared. We have that Deerfield program that's specifically geared for Black wealth and Black expansion into homes. What are some of the things, because I kind of want to hear what happened. What are some of the things that you went through or that you did that you prepared us to be in a place now where we can take advantage of these opportunities?
Well, Brian, I have to tell you, in 81, went out to purchase a home. And the person that, because I was with the airlines, I was recommended to someone who knew someone in the airline. Well, the person that was showing me around was not of my ethnicity. And I found myself being steered. We didn't have access. We did not have access in those days to the inventory through the internet or even the books that the realtors had to see what was in each neighborhood. They would choose homes based on what you could afford, and they would all neighborhoods that you would go into, that they would show you in.
Mm.
So that was when I decided to become a realtor, was one of the things that led me to I learned that, okay, only way things are changed in this state or in most states is through the legislative process. So that I pushed to become a member of CAR's legislative committee back there, that led to, because like I said, Denver had problems at that time with the fair housing, and that led to the first keys to home ownership, that led to down systems of programs. And those things, I have to tell you, Denver did a great job, and I'm not taking nothing away from it. Every city has problems, but Denver did a great job of addressing that problem with programs and other things. You have a greater opportunity as a minority, from what talking to others around the country, of getting down payment assistance in Denver if you take the steps to do the right things than you do in other cities. I was just talking to someone in Philadelphia the other day, and is going, "Oh my God, I wish you had the programs here that you're talking to me about, that you have there." So home ownership here can be easier than anywhere else in this country because of what have been put in place over the years.
Wow, that is so cool. What you just said, I did not realize, because, or I just didn't put two and two together, because I know about redlining. I'm a lender, and I'm on that side of it, and not being able for folks to get, homes, or the banks not lending money for homes in different areas. But what I did not realize is there were realtors or real estate agents at the time that wouldn't even take you to some of those neighborhoods and those places that you could even afford, to kind of gear and kind of stop that from happening. And so it took folks like yourself, and I don't know in 1981 how many. I could probably imagine in 1981 how many Black realtors there were in the Denver metro area, but I can't imagine that there was a whole bunch that were trying to steer people into different areas.
Well, going back to the 80s, if you did not seek out, because we did not have a lot, we had, if you did not seek out and go and find a Black realtor, you said you wanted to buy a home. Someone said, "Oh, I bought a home. My realtor is this," because referral is how we get a lot of our business. I'll tell you right now, I would say 95% of my business is from referral from people who has successfully done what it is. You don't refer people unless you're comfortable with what you did, what you received, how you were treated. So when I started off, the person that was referred to me was by someone, because I was at the airlines, and I wasn't immersed or grew up in Denver. So I didn't know who in the community, because advertisement in those days were word of mouth. You didn't have you didn't have print magazines where you saw realtors advertising there. You didn't have TV commercials. You didn't know. If you didn't know where to seek, you would know how to do that. So that's how I ended up with the realtor that I had at that point in time. Later, in my second purchase, I realized that we had we had Black realtors, we had public realty, we had, and that's public realty is where I was first introduced to NARAB. And I got to tell you, I love NARAB.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about NARAB? Because for some people who've never heard of NARAB, what is NARAB, and why is NARAB important?
Well, it's the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. It is the oldest minority trade association in America, found in 1947. When minority Black realtors was not allowed to join white real estate organizations in the nation. It wasn't that they say, "Oh, you can't join." They made it so difficult and it's very hard, Brian, to tell you that to be the only minority in the room for
Mhm.
a lot of people. That's a very uncomfortable position. I can tell you, I've observed people that walked into restaurants where they felt they're the only, and they don't stay.
Mhm.
It's subconsciously in us not be around people like us for our own safety.
Mhm.
So NARAB was founded in 1947. It's the oldest minority trade association in America, dedicated to increasing Black home ownership in America. Over the years, we have worked hard to grow that. Um, to me, it's very disappointing that going back to 2014, 15, we had almost cracked in this country uh, upwards above 65% home ownership. It grew. It grew. It grew even through the downturn of the early 2000s, 2007, 2008, 2009. But because of that market, homes became affordable and a lot more minorities were able to
Mhm.
own homes at that point in time. It's disappointing that we're now down in the 30s, that home ownership has has been became hard once again for us to get into, reverting back to prior to World War II. And that is disappointing to me. The numbers are. And I'm doing everything that I possibly can, and I'm encouraging everyone I can to become a home ownership, because wealth in our community and the success of people like you, my children, and other children come through home ownership. See, when you're moving from one community to another community because rent is less here, you're uprooting your kids and you're moving them around. You're teaching them that, oh, if it gets difficult, you just move on. Now they're starting off in a different school. They don't have their friends. They don't have that. So it becomes a thing where the kids don't think, well, I can no do any better than this. So it's a whole mindset. So that's what I'm working on right now, is changing that mindset that, hey, you do deserve to own.
Yeah, it is. You start thinking of how important the family unit is, and how important stability is, and all the research that I've seen and that I've done, and where I've worked throughout my doctorate is all based on, how do you keep a child in a stable environment for a period of time is an indicator of how successful that they have the opportunity to be. And I think folks have known this all this time, but we've been such a moving around society because of, like you said before, buying the payment, instead of the stability that comes along with it, and that rent that comes along with it. If somebody were to come to you, and I think about the millennials now, when you're talking about in the 80s, when there was no Zillow, there was no books, there was no pictures, now they have all this information that comes to them. And I think sometimes it freezes them. Like, I have so many choices that I don't even know where to begin. And I think you alluded to that at the beginning of our conversation is, if somebody comes to you, what are like the first few steps that you're going to, a time that you're going to spend with them, that you're going to go over? Because I think some of the art of what it means to be a realtor, or to be a real, is been lost in this technology thing. What are some of the things that you can help somebody so they can navigate this pretty easily?
Well, one of the things is there is a lot of disinformation out there.
Okay.
And you touched on it. We're in I just read something the other day that the attention span of a person under the age of 35 today is approximately 4 seconds.
Oh
So
gosh.
we're used to so we're so used now of everything being instantaneous,
Mhm.
not understanding that you can't walk in and buy a home like nothing. Like, well, I'm here. No, I let me buy it like you're buying a soda. Uh, have to. My job is to educate them to understand to make the best decision with their money. The, Generally, the younger people, the only purchase they've made is a car, and that's the high dollar item they've purchased. But what they don't realize is they have a car, but they don't own a car.
Okay.
They have access to it. They pay the payments. They pay for insurance. They do everything, but the title is held by the bank until the car is paid off. Where home ownership is a different altogether. Home ownership, you own the home. The bank has a lien against you saying that if you don't pay me, I'll go through this big process to take it back. With a car, if you don't pay them, they send the hook tonight and take it while you're asleep. They can't do that with a home. Because of that, the process is more intense and takes more steps because the bank want to limit their risk of if you're going to pay them or not. So my first meeting is I want to meet with you face to face and sit down. And I like to have about 35 or 40 minutes, preferably over lunch or coffee, because I want to know what your goals is in purchasing a home and what your long-term life goals. Brian, I'm going to sit here and tell you one of the most proudest thing that I can tell you right now is back in the 2006, 2005, 2006, when the banks crashed in 2007, foreclosure became huge.
Mhm.
I want to sit here and tell you, in my nearly 2,000 sales to home buyers and sellers, serving over nearly 2,000 of them over my career, I had only 3 people that went into foreclosure during that period of time.
Wow. That's amazing.
And it's because of the process of let's get together, let's plan the goals, let's go there. Let me help you understand what you're buying and understand what the impact on your life if you lose it.
Mhm. Wow, that is so incredible. And I think through this process that you're doing, and the hope is, and when you talk about generational wealth, is we're going to do this over and over again. So we want to learn this process. It isn't like you just go into the store and you buy a loaf of bread and you come out. It is, this is an investment that you're going to make that's going to change the future of your kids, your kids' kids, and those kids' kids. If we do it right the first time, then we can duplicate that over and over again, continue to learn, continue to get better at it, but then create something that goes on and on and on. Whereas if we just think of it as a transaction, which I think is a lot that happens with in this generation of technology, then it's something that we don't really understand. We just went through the transaction, and then now anything comes up, now we're discombobulated and we're trying to rush to figure it out, and we're all over the place. And so I appreciate. Are you seeing that with new folks that are just in this transaction oriented? I need it right now. Why can't you give it to me? Well, maybe because you can't afford it right now. Let's find what you can. You know.
That is the biggest thing,
Mhm.
is explaining to them why I can't get this. Why can't you sell me $1 million home?
Mhm.
I want a home like, and everyone is following someone online,
Mhm.
and there are so many misguided, I'm following ABA online and he just bought this $2 million home. I'm like him. I dress like him. I talk like him. I drink what he drinks. I go to clubs like him. Why can't I buy like him? It is a process that takes a little time.
Yeah.
And I'm old now, so I have the patience to wait through to educate them to make the best decision with that money.
That is huge, and I'm glad you're working with this group that needs that extra time, needs that understanding, needs to kind of learn that patience that goes into it, because that is so vitally important in order to learn. And that's a big thing that I get people call me and they want me to get off the phone within 5 minutes, and me, like you, I might not be as patient as you, but be like you, like, no, I want you to understand the process here, what's going on, the transparency of what's going on. And I think for so long, things were done to us, or done for us, without us having the knowledge or the recourse to be able to fix it if something went wrong.
And you're so right, Brian. You touched on a very important thing there. The very important thing is that when people have a negative point in their life, when everything around them is negative, they don't see themselves as succeeding. They have the fear of succeeding. So therefore, they are, and this is a very key word, they are unwilling. I didn't say unable, unwilling to do the due diligence to succeed.
Hmm.
I just told a young couple a couple of days ago, they were at the level of frustration that they were ready to throw it all in. I go, look at all the work you've done here. When you plant a seed in the ground, the first thing that grows are the roots before the plant pop up above ground. You guys are so close to now purchasing, it does not make sense to go out and rent. So they went away and thought about it for a while, and they called me back and says, Rob, okay, we can take care of the rest of these things and a couple of months from now start. Because they were at the point that they thought that I've done this for almost 9 months. I should be in position now, and they should understand that I've done this, you know. So it is a process. And it takes a little while before the proof shows through. And and it takes patience. And that's why I push for a face-to-face meeting the first time.
I love it. I love it. The importance of relationship, the importance of is some lost in some of our sales. All right, we're kind of running down on time now, but I would love for you one more time to give your cell phone number out again, and then maybe any other closing thoughts that you would want to make sure. Because what I hope that people are getting when they're watching this is Rob is going to take some time. Rob is going to make sure you get to the finish line. And sometimes the finish line, getting there, is more important than a lot of the other stuff you can do, doing it quickly, because the process of getting there and what you need to do on that road to get there is so important. So, Rob, give us that phone number one more time, and then talk about whatever your closing thoughts are.
Well, Brian, my phone number once again is 303-669-5397. Text or call me at that. And in closing, I want to tell you and the public that is listening, I want to let them know that my goal as a realtor is to educate you to make the best decision with your money. And my goal is, when you're educated to make the best decision with your money, it takes away the worry, it takes away the fear, and it also educate you to what you need to do to move forward. I had a young lady call me and told me, because she was looking to buy a car before and a house at the same time. And we took the time, and she was in a great position, recent college grad, uh, debt wasn't that bad, was able to get her into a place. She called and told me that the interest rate that she had been quoted before buying her place had dropped from 14% down to 7% at the same bank because she owned a home on that car purchase.
Wow. Wow. Makes so much sense. Makes
Let's
so much sense. Yeah.
let's build some
Yeah.
generational wealth.
That is so huge. And what I want to do, if you're willing, I would love for you to come back, with a person that you've helped. Let's get them on with you and let's talk about that process they went to. So not only is it conceptual because we're talking about it, but it's reality because we actually walked with somebody. So maybe in 2 or 3 months, we can find one of the clients that you have that you've worked with that has seen this success, and they can kind of talk about, hey, yeah, I didn't think so at the beginning that I would be able to do this. I didn't realize it was a process, and now I do, but I'm so happy now. And I know out of the 2,000 people that you've helped over time, I can guarantee there's several people who would want to jump at the chance to talk to you. So maybe we can invite those folks on. So I wanted to thank you again for being on. Three things that I say all the time at the end is, one, you can do this. Please call Rob. Find that phone number. We're going to put it down below as well. Call Rob because you can do this. You deserve this. Every person who lives in this country and as a citizen in this country that had gone through whatever you've gone through in this country and the trauma and everything else, you deserve this. You deserve the opportunity to have the American dream, which allows you to create generational wealth. And then the third thing is, let us help you. Rob said it earlier in here. I'm continuing to say it. We do this on a daily basis. Rob's been doing it since the 1980s. He knows what he's doing. Let us help you. Don't try to figure this out yourself. And here's what I even say. Do not try to read it on a blog. Do not try to figure out how you're going to do it using TikTok. Find somebody who's going to help you to make the biggest purchase in your entire life, at least the first biggest purchase in your entire life, or one of the biggest ones, and do it right. So again, thank you for coming on, Rob. This has been enlightening, exciting. I can't wait to do it again. And just thank you for being part of another episode of not only the Black Wealth Experience podcast, but the Mile High Real Estate Spotlight podcast. You guys have a wonderful, amazing day. All right, let me get this. There's my mouse. Boom.